Last week I spoke with Eddie McNamara about his new book, Zodiactually, the true story of a fake serial killer. And it just got me thinking about crime movies and stuff. So I thought, why not put together a list of some of my favorite crime movies? And I kind of went off of some of my more recent watches, like say maybe in the last 5 years, movies that I've seen. And there's a couple that break that rule, but for the most part, I'd say like it's about a 5-year period is what I'm going off of here. And I came up with 23 movies. So I'm going to start with my least favorite, go to my favorite, but these are some of my favorite crime movies that I've seen of all time. There are going to be movies that probably should be on this list that aren't because I haven't seen them yet. Like Memories of Murder is one movie that I always see recommended, and I really want to see it. By the sounds of it and the description, I would say that's probably a movie I am going to like. I really just haven't had any time to watch it yet. So once I get around to it, it'll probably get added to the list, and we'll have 24 of these damn movies. And there's other movies that you might think should be on this list that you're not going to see, like the movie Longlegs, and that's because just overall I think it's kind of shitty. And then on top of that, as a crime movie, I think it's extra shitty. And hopefully that doesn't turn you off of this video. You can kind of just maybe see where my thought process is at with this whole thing. If you're a fan of Longlegs, stick around. We can agree to disagree and let bygones be bygones, and maybe we can get past this. Maybe we can watch some other movies besides Longlegs for once. I feel like it started out strong, like it had some potential, but it quickly went off the rails, and you kind of saw what was happening by the second act. And then as it went on, the supernatural element in it just kind of felt like a cop-out. Like it felt like they weren't going to be able to pull off a strong crime movie, so they just said, it's the devil. The devil did it. It's about a devil doll. I said, what is this? The movie The Black Devil Doll from Hell? I'd rather watch that movie than Longlegs, to be honest. So let's get right to it. My number 23 movie at the bottom of this list is going to be the David Fincher movie Seven. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Gwyneth Paltrow. We got fucking the fuck's the other guy's name? What the hell? This is kind of funny. I just pulled up the Wikipedia just to get like an idea of like who's in the movie and stuff like that, you know, just a little refresher since it's been a while for some of these movies. And Kevin Spacey is nowhere to be found. I don't see his name on here anywhere. And I was kind of thinking like, wait a minute, I know there's another big name in this movie. And yeah, he's just not mentioned at all. They just wiped his ass clean from the whole Wikipedia, apparently. And there's not even a picture of him on here with the cast. That's crazy. I guess because he raped somebody, like some boy or something like that. I didn't really look into what he was up to, but I thought I remember hearing something about him maybe being a little raper. I don't know. I'll have to do an episode on what Kevin Spacey's been up to. So yeah, this movie, it's at the bottom of my list, even though I would say I like it as a crime movie overall. Just doesn't stand out to me as one that I want to revisit very often. Like I think it's all right, but as far as like rewatchability goes, I don't really hold this one very high. I feel like when it's kind of shocking the first time you see it, all the crazy murders and the idea behind how this killer is choosing his victims or whatever. Like it's an interesting enough story one time around, but I tried to rewatch it fairly recently in the last year or so, and I just couldn't really get into it. Once you know the ending and kind of all the details and everything with this one, it's hard to get invested into this movie personally. I think the performances are pretty good. It's a dreary movie. It's always raining. I feel like everything looks yellow or brown in this movie. And after getting through the what's in the box thing the first time, I feel like on rewatch it's just not as effective for whatever reason. My number 22 movie is going to be the 2022 film Watcher. This movie stars Micah Monroe. It follows Julia. She's a young American woman who moves to Bucharest. Am I saying that right? Bucharest. So yeah, Julia moves to Bucharest with her husband after he's been relocated for work, and he's all excited about this. She doesn't speak the language, so she feels trapped, pretty isolated, like she can't get out and do anything because she can't communicate very well. And eventually she's sitting in her apartment while her husband's at work, and she's just kind of looking across the way at like this 30 some stories of other apartments across from hers, and she feels like she's seeing somebody watching out the window at the same time, and all she's seeing is this like silhouette, and she's kind of like starting to think like, hey, is that motherfucker looking at me a little bit? And so she puts her hand up and waves at him, and then he waves back, and she's like, oh, fuck. And she gets all freaked out, and she starts to become more and more paranoid that this person across the way is watching her. Really great psychological thriller. A lot of awesome tension building throughout this movie. There's a lot of uncertainty, paranoia, isolation, and then towards the end, you get this really satisfying climax. And one of the strongest things about it is the back and forth and the wondering, is she going crazy? Is she just being paranoid? Or does she have legitimate concerns for what's going on? Because there's a serial killer that's in the area. I think his name is the Spider or something like that, or that's like his nickname. And she's starting to wonder if maybe the guy that she waved to isn't the serial killer or not. So she could just be freaking herself out for no reason. You'll have to watch the movie and find out. Number 21 is going to be the 1996 movie Freeway. This stars a young Reese Witherspoon and Kiefer Sutherland. So some heavy hitters in this movie. This is one that I just randomly watched one day on Prime. I hadn't heard anything about it, but I was like, okay, sounds interesting. It's about a 14-year-old illiterate teenager that lives in South Los Angeles. Her parents get arrested for drugs and like sexual abuse charges or something like that. I think her stepfather is abusing her, and you kind of see that in the early parts of the movie, and it's really disgusting. It's just one of those things where it's like kind of catches you off guard pretty bad if you don't know about it going into it. I was kind of like, fuck, this is a nasty fucking movie right away. But she's getting put into child services or child care or whatever, and she takes off. She starts hitchhiking to go to her grandma's house. She gets picked up by Kiefer Sutherland, who's playing Bob Wolverton. He's known as the I-5 killer. He's a serial killer, and he lets her know, hey, guess what? You fucked up. The wrong guy picked you up as a hitchhiker. I'm going to kill you. Lucky for her, her drug dealer boyfriend gave her a gun to sell to make some money. So she pulls the damn gun out and she fucking whoops his ass. I think she almost kills him, or she thinks that she kills him, and she leaves. And basically Bob puts her on trial for attempted murder or whatever. And so she has to try to prove that he's a serial killer and all this stuff while he's playing the victim. He's basically hamming it up and crying and stuff like that. In his everyday life, he seems like an upstanding citizen. He's like married and has kids and stuff like that, and a good job and stuff. No one would suspect him as the I-5 killer. Number 20 is the movie Super Dark Times. This is kind of like a teenage high school movie. It takes place in 1996 in upstate New York. It's about two teenage best friends, Zach and Josh. This movie came out in 2017, and this is kind of where, for me, the lines of like crime movies get crossed a little bit. It was kind of a tough one picking and choosing like what is even considered a crime movie, because it's kind of an umbrella term that covers several genres like mystery, suspense, thriller, even horror, obviously. Like, I feel like if you're just going based off of what's a crime movie, any horror movie and most action movies are going to they're going to have crimes in them. So you could call them a crime movie or whatever. Like, Friday the 13th, guess what? Jason's mom is committing crimes because she's killing everybody, but you wouldn't typically think of that as a crime movie, now would you? So that's something to really dive deep into when you're thinking about movies and how to categorize them. Yeah, think about that. That'll fucking blow your mind if you think about that for too long. So anyway, Super Dark Times is basically about these high school kids. They both like the same girl at school. They hang out with some friends. They start fucking doing shit with a samurai sword for some reason. This is one that I have. It's probably hitting the 5-year mark for me, so I'm not exactly fresh on this one. An accident happens. They have an accident. One of the kids, I think he accidentally like harakiris himself on the sword, and they're like, oh shit, let's pretend like that didn't happen. So they all run away, and they try not to tell anybody that this accident happened that left this teenage boy dead. And then pretty much the rest of the movie is just tensions building between them. You know, some of them want to come forward, some of them don't. Their friendships start to deteriorate. The jealousy between the two friends over this girl, that starts to build and build. And there's a pretty interesting twist at the end that involves the girl. I'm not going to get into it, but there's some theories about it online that I think are pretty interesting, and I think they actually do hold some weight. So check out Super Dark Times. Let me know what you think about that ending, and look up the Allison theory and comment down below if you think the Allison theory is 100% legit, or if you think it's just a bunch of bogus ass bullshit. Number 19 is going to be the movie Funny Games. Like I said, this is a movie about a crime, pretty much just about a crime, so I feel like it counts. It counts as a crime movie. The other thing is, like, I tried to leave out anything that was supernatural. Not saying that those can't be crime movies, but for me, I feel like once you throw in something supernatural, it disqualifies it a little bit for me. Like, that's you're getting into a whole other spectrum of movie there, and you're leaving the crime category, in my opinion anyway. It was originally done in 1997. It's an Australian film by Michael Haneke. Basically, it's about two guys that show up to a fairly wealthy neighborhood, and if I remember right, the family that they approach, I think it's like kind of like their vacation home maybe, or something like that, or maybe they just got back from a vacation. This one's been a while since I've seen it as well, but basically these two guys just show up and start assaulting the family, but they're like being really polite at first, and it just kind of slowly get more and more rude, and it progresses into just like full on assault. And then they decide, hey, while we have you guys held hostage here, why don't we play a funny game? And it gets pretty brutal. It's kind of a satirical psychological thriller, because it's one of those where it breaks the fourth wall constantly, and you get some moments that that could only be done in a fourth wall breaking type of movie, if you know what I'm saying. And this is one that I've only watched one time. It stuck with me, and I don't know, at some point I'll probably watch it again, but this was a heavy one. I remember we watched this in our parents' living room. My older brother brought it over and was just like, hey, check this movie out that I got, and popped it in, and we were like, damn, all right, it's pretty fucking heavy. It's a pretty fucking heavy movie you got there, buddy. And yeah, that one stuck with me big time. Number 18 is going to be the 2022 film The Batman, the Robert Pattinson one with Zoe Kravitz. You got Paul Dano in there as the Riddler, and you also have Colin Farrell as the Penguin. And I don't know if this is my favorite Batman movie out there. I'd probably have to do a whole Batman movie ranking list, which maybe that'll happen next week. Who knows? I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. But as far as like Batman movies go, this one felt like the most akin to a traditional crime movie. Like, it felt like a straight up vigilante superhero crime fighting movie, if you know what I'm saying. I guess that's what they're all about. But at the same time, this one felt like maybe the most realistic, I guess you could say. I prefer this one over the Dark Knight trilogy, so let me know in the comments if you agree. Do you think this is better than the Dark Knight trilogy? I do. I mean, the Dark Knight trilogy, this is like a mini Batman ranking, I guess, right here. The Dark Knight trilogy for me isn't even better than Batman Returns, in my opinion. I would put that one over all three of those movies as well. I have to go back and watch some more of the Batman movies. It might not even be better than the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, if I'm being completely honest, but like I said, I'd have to do a rewatch. It's been a while since I watched all the Batman movies. I thought this Batman movie felt the most grounded in reality as far as the crime aspect goes. They take inspiration from the Zodiac Killer with the Riddler, and I think that's very apparent, even if you didn't read about that before watching the movie. And I just thought that made this one a lot more interesting to me. I thought the Penguin character was really neat, added a nice touch to it, and yeah, overall, I just thought this was a really cool crime story. Number 17 is the 2007 movie Vacancy. I always see it listed more as like a horror movie, and I guess that's probably true. I feel like it's more of like a suspense too. It has a lot of suspense in this movie, but it is basically just focusing on a crime. It's about a married couple. They're leaving like a film festival party or something like that, and they stop at this motel. We quickly find out that they're on the verge of divorce. Their son died, and it's driven them apart. So they stop at this motel for a place to stay. I can't remember what happens. I think their car breaks down or something. And so they're like, oh shit, let's get our car fixed and stay at this damn motel. It's like a motel / car repair shop maybe or something. I can't actually remember too much about it. At some point, they realize that what they're watching on their TV is like footage from another motel guest's room. Like they're watching it or something like that. And then these guys break in and murder her. And they're like, what the fuck? And it's like, or maybe it's like a VHS tape that they find or something like that. And they realize that it's like a snuff film. But then they're like, wait a minute, this snuff film's being recorded in the room that we're staying in. And then they're just like, oh, fuck, we're about to get killed in a snuff film as well. So they start to like figure out how they're going to get out of this situation or how they're going to defend themselves basically. And it just, yeah, it's a pretty intense movie. This is one that I liked a lot more than I expected. It has Luke Wilson and Kate Beckinsale in it. So pretty solid cast overall too. And yeah, this is a pretty interesting story, just the way it plays out. I would almost compare this one to like the movie The Strangers. Personally, I like this movie better. Number 16 is the movie Nightcrawler with old Jakey Gyllenhaal. He might pop up on this list a time or two after this, but basically this follows around this guy, Lou. He's living in Los Angeles and he's doing whatever he can to get money. He's stealing copper piping. He's fucking taking catalytic converters. He's selling junk and shit like that, stealing manhole covers. This guy doesn't give a fuck. He's like stealing a fence at one point from like a junkyard or something. Like it's not a fence that's at the junkyard for you to take or whatever. He's stealing the actual fence around the junkyard because he needs damn money. Lou need damn money. And eventually he basically pawns that and gets a video camera and a police radio scanner, and he becomes an ambulance chaser. So anytime there's an accident or a crime or whatever, Lou's on the scene filming that shit and then selling it to the news stations. And eventually he makes enough money doing this to where he can employ this other guy and pay him like a shitty wage to put himself in really dangerous situations to also get a good footage to sell to the news station. So that just kind of keeps going and escalating until you really get a plain as day idea of Lou's mental state. Like you're kind of wondering the whole time, like how far is he going to go with this? And then you realize, okay, Lou's a sociopath. He has no feelings behind them eyes. Yeah, let's see. Number 15 is going to be Gone Girl. So this is another David Fincher. This is the second time he showed up on this list already, and I kind of forgot that this was a David Fincher movie. But basically it's got Ben Affleck in it, and who else is in it? Oh yeah, Rosamund Pike is in it. Tyler Perry's in this damn movie. What the hell? And Neil Patrick Harris. Holy shit, I forgot all these guys were in this damn movie. So basically his wife goes missing. Everyone suspects him after a while. He doesn't do a great job of deflecting any of these suspicions. He kind of comes off as an asshole and a little bit uncaring. The way this movie plays out is fantastic. I feel like it tells the story perfectly. And this was a book. I haven't read the book. It's been a while, but this is one where I feel like the book and the movie are almost equals. The book and the movie, it rarely happens where the movies get it just right. And this is one case where I feel like they really do. A lot of it has to do with the performances. I feel like Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike do a great job. I don't want to give too much away with this one. Even knowing the twists and the reveals for this movie, the rewatchability is there for this one. I feel like this is a movie I could sit down and watch pretty much any time, except for the runtime being about 150 minutes. You know, you got to block off a few hours of your day. But other than that, I think this one would hold up on a rewatch for sure. Number 14 is American History X. This is my number 14 on the crime movie list. You got Ed Norton and Ed Furlong. Throw another Ed in this movie, you could have an Ed and Eddie reboot, except one of them is one of the Eds would have a big swastika on his chest, and I imagine it would be the first Ed, the one that's always trying to get all the money and coming up with the schemes. Could you imagine if they just do an Ed and Eddie episode where he pulls his shirt off at the pool and he just has a big ass swastika on his chest? Imagine seeing that on Cartoon Network after school and you're just like, damn. He's like bite the curb, Ralph, or whatever that one, Middle Eastern guy's name was in Ed, Edd n Eddy. So this is probably Ed Furlong's second most iconic role next to Terminator 2. I feel like I always kind of forget, like, oh yeah, this is another solid Ed Furlong performance. And obviously like a huge Ed Norton movie, maybe his biggest role. Maybe his most recognizable role, maybe. I don't know. Or probably Fight Club. I guess you could probably put Fight Club over this one, but this is definitely one of those movies that sticks with you as well. I feel like before I even saw the movie, I would always hear people talk about the curb stomp scene, and I was like, sounds pretty fucking intense. Kicking off your movie with an old curb stomp, and then homie just goes to prison. But yeah, as far as a crime movie goes, though, I think this one takes a really unique perspective on the whole thing, where the older brother's bad decisions and his racist ideology. Anyway, this all has like a huge impact on his younger brother, Ed Furlong. And even though when he serves his time in prison and comes out, he has a different perspective on life and he completely denies his old ways, his younger brother is caught up in that, and he's trying to like carry on the torch for his brother, where I'm going to be the next best racist guy in town, the next best skinhead. And so and his brother's kind of like, hey man, that shit's kind of fucking dumb, you probably shouldn't be doing that shit anymore. But he does, and he keeps doing it, and then eventually it leads to a whole lot of negativity, a whole lot of bad shit happening, and it basically just goes to show that hate is not the answer. Ed Furlong should have learned from his older brother's mistakes and not continued to be a pretty heavy movie. Number 13 is going to have old Stevie King sneaking his way onto our list with The Shawshank Redemption. This is one of those Stephen King stories that I feel like is often forgot about that it's one of his stories. This was based on the 1982 Stephen King novella Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. So it's almost like this one reminds me of Stand By Me or something like that, where I feel like it just doesn't feel like your typical Stephen King story. But the more you get into Stephen King, the more you start reading some of his other works, like his lesser known stuff, this totally feels like something he would write. It totally feels in line with it, just the mood and the tone and everything. I feel like his writing is a lot more heartfelt than people realize before actually diving into all of his work. Shawshank Redemption, pretty fantastic. Andy Dufresne goes to jail or goes to prison. This one has been a while since I've seen it, but it's just it's always been one of my top crime movies, especially, where it's just, this one gives you the point of view of a man in prison, and eventually he starts cooking the books. That you kind of see a lot of the horrors of prison in this one, similar to the last movie we talked about, American History X. They kind of focus in on the prison rape, which I think is something that they're really hitting home a lot of times in any of these prison movies. Like, if you go to prison, you will be raped, and it's just part of the prison culture, and it's gonna happen. So don't go to prison. Don't get raped in prison. There's one way to not get raped in prison, and that is to not be in prison. Okay, yeah, I forgot all about this. So Andy Dufresne, he's given 2 consecutive life sentences for murdering his wife and her lover. And that's why he's sent to Shawshank. I always thought he was wrongfully convicted, and maybe he is. I don't know. Yeah, I would have to watch this one again or read the book or something. Maybe I'll put this one on, I'll bump it up on my watch list or rewatch list or something like that. But you got Morgan Freeman, you got Tim Robbins. Fantastic movie. I should cut that out. I feel like I've been saying that all the time. I keep saying that these are fantastic movies. They are. This is a top 23 list of movies that I like. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not going to be throwing any fucking stinkers on here. So if you want to watch a good movie, throw on any of these goddamn 23 of these goddamn movies and you're going to like it. You're going to have a good time with Shawshank Redemption and all the shower rape scenes that are in here. Trust me. Number 12, we got a damn Clint Eastwood movie in here, and this is Mystic River, the 2003 American neo-noir mystery crime drama. This one also has Tim Robbins in it, but then you got Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon, Lawrence Fishburne, Marcia Gay Harden, and Laura Linney. So incredibly strong cast with this one. I always think that this movie has Giovanni Ribisi in it. I always think he's the guy that they think is the the child killer and stuff like that, but I think it's actually Tim Robbins that plays that character. So that's a little less on the nose. I feel like Tim Robbins, I think, is a way better choice. I like Giovanni Ribisi a lot, and I think he would do well as that character, but I feel like it would almost be a little too much. He's a little too frantic. But yeah, this movie stuck with me. Really just overall incredible performances, amazing story. And this is something I didn't realize until last year. I read the book last year. The novel came out in 2001. And it was by Dennis Lehane. So I'd seen the movie a long time ago, and I read the book last year. The book this is another one, the way I was talking about Gone Girl, how those are like equals. I feel like same thing. The book was amazing, really heartbreaking story, and just really well written. The story plays out really nicely in a very satisfying way, the way everything's revealed and the way it kind of like leads you on and stuff like that. Very well done. And this is actually the first movie where Clint Eastwood was credited as the composer of the score, so that was pretty interesting. And Sean Penn won Best Actor, with Tim Robbins winning Best Supporting Actor for this movie. So just a fucking incredible flick overall. And I think this is the first movie I've talked about on this list where, as far as the crime genre goes, you're starting to dip your toes into like the mob or like gangster type of crime shit going on here, because I think it's the Sean Penn character kind of like runs a local criminal organization, if I remember right, where he kind of like oversees things in town. You know, he's like almost like a mob boss type of character. But that was one of the things where, like, with this list, I feel like a lot of times when you're saying crime movies, if you're not thinking mystery or suspense, you're kind of going into like gangster movies right away, like Godfather and stuff like that. And that brings us to our number 11 movie, Goodfellas, because that's probably my favorite one of those types of movies, like Italian mafia type of movies, is gonna be Goodfellas. How can you go wrong with this movie? You got Ray Liotta, Robbie D, Joe Pesci, and Martin Scorsese behind on the director's chair. Holy shit, guys. And this one is just very iconic, has a lot of lines in it and a lot of scenes in it that you've probably seen, even if you haven't seen the movie. I rewatched it a few years ago, and goddamn, it holds up. It's one of my favorite crime movies of all time. Probably my favorite, like, mafia style movie. So this movie starts out in the 1950s. Basically, our main character sees a crime at an early age. I think he's a teenager or something like that. And he kind of becomes enamored with criminal life. And eventually he starts working for these local local mob group or whatever, just like running small errands for him and stuff like that. And as time goes on, he ends up becoming like full force into this group and stuff like that. And he becomes like a big name around town and stuff. Drug guy, killing people, shit like that. Casinos, big cigar, swimming with the fishes, that sort of stuff. Number 10 is going to take Robbie D in another role, but this time just make him a little bit more twisted and a little bit more unhinged, if you know what I'm saying. It's like if you took Robert De Niro from the movie Goodfellas, but instead of him being in the mob, you put him in prison for his whole life and made him from Louisiana, and then also made him like listen to Trapped Under Ice for his entire life, or make him listen to the band Crowbar for his entire life, and then let him out of prison and have him attack Nick Nolte. So this is Cape Fear. This is the 1991 remake. I haven't seen the original, the one that came out in the 60s. I believe it was 1962. This is another Scorsese movie. So this one came out just a couple years after Goodfellas. So Scorsese was on a run here in the early 90s. Basically, this is about a public defender who puts away Max Cady, played by Robert De Niro, and sends him to prison intentionally. Like, he finds out some details that could get him get him out of prison for rape and assault and stuff like that, but he hides the evidence and lets his client go to prison because he just knows, like, this guy's a violent piece of shit. Send him to fucking prison. Who gives a shit? And Max Cady's illiterate at the time of the trial, so there's no way he's going to know about any of these details. While Max Cady's in prison, he smartens up. He starts going to like goddamn prison college or something like that, and he learns about the law. And basically he figures out all this shit about his case, and he gets himself out or something, and he goes after his defense attorney. He goes after Nick Nolte, Sam, and his whole family, and basically just starts stalking them and harassing them. And this one, the escalation in this one is fantastic. There's scenes where where Sam is paying guys to beat up Max Cady, and Max Cady is like showing up at his daughter's high school fucking performances and stuff like that. He's showing up at the movie theater being loud as fuck next to Sam and his family. It's the whole thing reaches ahead on a boat fight scene that is incredible, and the way that Max Cady gets himself there is also unreal, where this one borderlines on supernatural for me at sometimes, because he like holds himself on the bottom of the car, like the suspension or something. I don't know how the fuck he stays under there. Like, imagine if they hit a railroad track or something going too fast, it would have like broken his back or something. But anyway, he makes it there. He gets to the boat. He's a surprise visitor, if you will. Number 9 is Manhunter by Michael Mann, directed by Michael Mann. This is based on the Thomas Harris book Red Dragon, which is the first novel, or what is it? This is the book before Silence of the Lambs, basically, is how this came out. And I honestly didn't know that there was another movie before Silence of the Lambs. I saw Silence of the Lambs when I was like a little kid, and I was like, damn, that was a great movie. Never heard about Manhunter until probably about 5 years ago, and then I was like, oh shit, this has Hannibal Lecter in it too. And so I read the book, I watched the movie. At the time when I first saw it and read, I liked the book Red Dragon maybe a little bit better than the book Silence of the Lambs, and the movie is pretty similar to the book. I feel like it does a really good job. It comes really close to living up to the hype of the book for me. There was some changes towards the end that I feel like just made it a little bit more digestible, if you will. I feel like the book has a pretty harsh ending, whereas the movie, they kind of make things work out, for the best, I guess you could say. But yeah, fantastic movie. Basically, you have this former FBI criminal profiler, Will Graham. He's going after a serial killer that's been dubbed the Tooth Fairy by the police because of the bite marks that he leaves on his victims. And so he goes to Hannibal Lecter for help, which he captured Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter agrees to it because he's curious to know how Will Graham was able to catch him. So they kind of have these back and forths. Really fantastic. I mean, like, this was my first time hearing about this movie and my first time seeing it. I really like the guy that plays Hannibal Lecter in this. Brian Cox plays Hannibal Lecter in Not Red Dragon and Manhunter. And yeah, I thought he did a fantastic job. I would say the performance as Hannibal Lecter is just as good as the one in Silence of the Lambs. Like, it's very good. I think the book version of the story I prefer it to Silence of the Lambs, actually. And there's a lot to like about this movie. Will Graham is fantastic, the character. He goes through all these different tactics trying to figure out who the Tooth Fairy is and how to kill him, how to catch him. They get these home videos. What happens there? And the Tooth Fairy murders almost seem completely random, and Graham starts to put together the pieces that he realizes that this guy must have known about their property in some way or another, because he's always so prepared for how he's going to get into their houses and stuff like that. So I won't say too much more than that. Really, really great movie. It has Tom Noonan in it, and you'll recognize him from the movie Last Action Hero as the bad guy with the rain slicker and the axe and all that shit. Number 8, A Clockwork Orange. So this is a dystopian crime film. This list is going to have a wide variety as far as what kind of crime movies made it on here. This is a Stanley Kubrick movie. Got Malcolm McDowell in there as the main character. And this basically just follows around Alex and just kind of the things he likes to get up to. He hangs out with his droogies, and they go around just committing crimes at will, whatever they feel like doing, beating people up, getting in gang fights, drinking milk and stuff like that, maybe even doing some rapes. Eventually it does catch up with him. Alex gets arrested, and he's put in an experimental aversion therapy for rehabilitating criminals. And supposedly this only takes 2 weeks, so they just pin his eyes open, they play Beethoven loud as hell, and they show him all these like horrible images and videos of like war and stuff like that. And once it's all said and done, he can't commit a crime without becoming nauseous. So I guess it works, Maybe they should do this. Maybe they should torture criminals. No, just maybe not all the time. Maybe just sometimes. Maybe some of them should. Whenever he's rehabilitated, though, he's let out and he runs into some familiar faces, and things don't go quite as well as they did before for Alex. Now that he can't be violent anymore, he can't really defend himself against any of this stuff. So it's kind of like one of those reap what you sow type of situations for his ass. All right. Number 7 is going to be the movie Fargo. This is a Joel and Ethan Coen movie. Basically, it's a black comedy crime film. This car salesman, he's hurting for money, so he's setting up to have his wife kidnapped. And this is one of those situations where something that he thought was going to be basically harmless just snowballs out of control. You've got Frances McDormand, William H. Macy, Steve Buscemi, Harvey Presnell, and Peter Stormare in this one. Jerry pays some guys to kidnap his wife, and basically it all goes wrong. They just keep upping the ransom. Once he wants to call it off, they don't want to call it off, and he's being extorted for money. He's trying to bribe people. It all goes wrong. Number 6 is going to be Dirty Harry, a Don Siegel movie starring Clint Eastwood. This is the second movie on the list that is based off of the Zodiac murder. And even closer to that case, the character Dirty Harry is based off the detective Dave Toschi, who was the lead investigator going after the Zodiac in the late 60s, like 69 throughout the 70s. And he's the guy that Mark Ruffalo plays in the movie Zodiac. So not the only movie with a Dave Toschi character in it, as I guess the movie Bullet, that character, the Steve McQueen character, was also Dave Toschi representation. So I watched this one for the first time probably about 3 years ago, and I didn't realize it was even related to the Zodiac case. So the back and forth between the detective and the killer and everything really stood out to me. It's a really great cat and mouse police story. The killer that they're going after, the Scorpio, is writing them letters, basically just kind of taunting them and letting them know who his next victim is going to be, similar to the Zodiac case. Number 5 on my list is Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners, the 2013 film. We got Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, Viola Davis, Maria Bello, Terrence Howard, whoop that trick, Melissa Leo, and Paul Dano again. We had Paul Dano, Balls Dano in the Batman, and now we got him in the movie Prisoners, and plays kind of a similar character in both movies, although in this one he gets beaten and tortured a lot more. I will say that. Hugh Jackman is terrifying in this movie. He thinks that Paul Dano is responsible for the abduction of his little girl, and he kidnaps him and puts him in an abandoned house and basically just handcuffs him up to an old sink or something, or a radiator, and just beats the fuck out of him. It's the scene that always really sticks with you is the one where he's got the hammer and he's threatening him with the hammer, and then he starts smashing the sink. It's terrifying. It's so intense. But yeah, really, really great movie. Jake Gyllenhaal plays a detective where he's going around trying to figure this thing out, and he kind of suspects that Hugh Jackman's character has something to do with the Paul Dano disappearance. So there's a lot of interweaving stories going on here, and they both think that they're kind of on the right trail. It takes some interesting turns. There's another big actor in this movie, the guy that was in Late Night with the Devil. I can't think of his name right now, but he's one of the suspects. Jake Gyllenhaal has a great foot chase scene with him. This movie has a really great, almost like a cliffhanger ending that just kind of leaves it up for interpretation. Like, what do you think happens next? Kind of situations. And yeah, it's a fun one for sure. Definitely one that'll pull you right through the movie. I almost gave this movie 5 stars. I think it ended up doing 4.5. I definitely think this is like a 5-star movie. There's one thing towards the end of the movie that dropped it down half a star for me, and it's really just like a choice that the Hugh Jackman character makes that I just didn't feel like it fit his character, the energy that he was bringing throughout the rest of the movie, if you know what I'm saying. It's whenever he goes to confront Paul Dano's mom, he becomes like really nice, and I was kind of like, the way this guy's been just torturing this guy in this house the whole time and burning him with scalding hot water and stuff like that, I can't imagine him ever being nice or calm at this point. I feel like he would just kick her fucking trailer door in and just start whooping her ass too, and just being like, listen bitch, I'm trying to find my damn daughter. I think your creepy ass son has her, killer or something like that, like locked in his room or something. So guess what? Knuckle sandwiches for fucking dinner tonight, bitch. And he just starts beating the hell out of her. But he's kind of like, he's like way too nice and lets his guard down and shit. This next one's going to be a little bit of a change of pace as well. So number 4 for me is going to be the South Korean movie I Saw the Devil. This movie completely blew my balls off the first time I saw it. I didn't know what to expect, but on reading the description, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like a cool action movie. This one is more almost like a gore torture movie, really. When it's not like crazy gory, but it's a lot more gory than I expected. Like getting into it, it's kind of like this, secret agent goes after this notorious serial killer to get revenge and stuff. And I was kind of like, all right, sounds cool. Sounds like, sounds pretty fun. Sounds like the movie Face Off or something. But when you get into it, it is so brutal, and it's very it's very well done as well. Like, I mean, there's a lot of really great South Korean movies, but this one, I feel like it's just shot really well. A lot of like artistic styling with it and stuff like that. Does that make any sense to anybody? I just feel like the way the shots are done look really nice. I don't know if I can say that. I'm totally running out of steam right now. I shouldn't have made the list so fucking long, or I should have done this and like split this into 2 episodes or something. God damn it. I'm getting exhausted. Basically, this one's about this guy. He's a fucking secret agent, and his fiance is murdered by the serial killer. In the very beginning of the movie, she gets murdered, and so he goes out with the whole teams, the police and everything are looking for her body. She also just happens to be like the police chief's daughter or something like that. So they're trying to keep the fiance away from this. They're like, hey man, don't worry about it. We got this covered. We'll let you know what happens because, she's missing or whatever. They find her cut off head in this like creek or something. He finds out and he flips the fuck out, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna figure out who did this. I'm gonna need some time off work, and they're like, yeah, take as much time as you need, you do what you gotta do to get better. And he's just like, bet, I will. And so he comes up with his list of suspects. He starts hunting everybody down, and he finally finds the guy that did it. And you're like, okay, he's gonna fucking kill him, or they're gonna have a battle or something. And this is like pretty early on in the movie where you're like, oh, he got him. And he finds him, and this guy's just like whooping his ass like fucking Jackie Chan style. He's like flying his ass like through walls and shit and beating the fuck out of him and like breaking his legs and stuff. And you're just like, all right, he's whooping some ass, and you're thinking like he's gonna kill him, but he doesn't. He just like takes him and he puts a tracking device in his ass or something, or he like makes him eat it or whatever, and then he fucking knocks him out, and then he just drops him off in like a parking garage somewhere, and he just kind of like every once in a while he'll revisit him, and he'll just start whooping his ass again, and he'll fucking like, do some more like bad shit to him, like cut his Achilles tendons and stuff like that. Some really like hostile type of torture scenes going on in this movie. And then he'll just let him go again. And it gets a little absurd in parts because it gets extremely unrealistic, where it's like he's cut his Achilles tendons and just like lets him go. And this guy's just like, he's beat up, but he's still like walking around. And it's like, dude, if you've had like your fucking ribs broken, and he smashes one of his arms with a rock at one point, and this guy just keeps letting you go, you're not going to be even physically able to just keep like walking around and making it to the next scene. You're probably just going to lay there and die or something. I don't know. Like at some point, and this movie does get almost to like Tokyo Drift levels of absurdity towards the end especially, but it's a really great movie, really good cat and mouse movie, and yeah, just really well done. The reveals are great. Very, I don't know if you'd say a very satisfying ending, but it's a brutal one, that's for sure. Number 3 on my list is No Country for Old Men. So we got another Coen brothers high up on the list, breaking the top 10. This one stars Tommy Lee Jones, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, Kelly MacDonald, and Woody Harrelson. So incredible cast, great Cormac McCarthy story, neo-western crime thriller. The Antoine character, one of the most memorable villains in a movie, just very cold-blooded killer going straight for this bounty that he's after. You have the sheriff, Ed, who kind of runs into this drug deal gone bad or whatever. All these people are killed and he's trying to make sense of it. You have Moss, who ends up finding the money at the bad drug deal, and he's taking the money. He's trying to get run away and stuff like that. I think it's his wife. Leaves her at home and he's just like, I'm going to go take this fucking money to Mexico and we're going to be fucking rich. But he's got Anton Chigurh after his ass and that's not good because this motherfucker doesn't stop for anything. He's just like, he's like the Terminator, but a real guy. And he also does like a heads or tails trick with people to see if he's going to kill him or not. And this, I think, is just another staple in the crime genre where you have the point of view from the sheriff where he's kind of following these things. And meanwhile, you're seeing these outside sources, the professional killer and kind of like the idiot who finds the money and thinks that he's going to be able to handle this situation. And the whole time you're getting commentary from the sheriff and just kind of his life and his career and stuff like that and what he thinks is going on and how he thinks the world is changing and everything like that. Number 2, Silence of the Lambs. So, like I said earlier, Manhunter is the first in the Silence of the Lambs series. And although I prefer the book Red Dragon over the Silence of the Lambs book, I do think they pulled off the movie for Silence of the Lambs a little better than the adaptation of Red Dragon. You got Anthony Hopkins' great performance as Hannibal Lecter, unforgettable. Jodie Foster as Agent Sterling. Again, just all around really great performances. The Buffalo Bill character, which is kind of like almost like a mix of Ted Bundy and Ed Gein, where he's using his fake broken arm to lure that lady to help him with getting his couch into the van or out of the van or whatever, and then he just like clubs her and kidnaps her. But then he also likes to wear women's skin as a suit. So you see that. Of course, you got the famous scene where he tucks his weenus in and he's, dancing in the mirror and stuff like that. Unforgettable movie. This is one of the best crime thrillers of all time, in my opinion. Way, way up there. And it does that thing. I don't know if this is the first time this has been done in a movie. Probably not, if I had to guess, but it does the really great misdirection towards the end where you're led to believe that Sterling is way off track. She's kind of headed in the wrong direction, and the FBI, in their opinion, they're locked on. They're going right towards Buffalo Bill, and you're kind of cutting to these two shots of like, who the Buffalo Bill character is, and you see the FBI, setting up outside this house, getting ready to bust in, and it keeps cutting to him inside the house, and meanwhile Sterling's going to talk to some random fucking person that she just thinks might have some information. And so you're thinking, oh damn, the FBI's at Buffalo Bill's house, and then it's revealed that Sterling's actually at Buffalo Bill's house, and she's pretty much completely has her guard down. So once he realizes who she is and why she's there, he's like, I gotta fucking kill this lady. And so he uses his advantage to get the upper hand on her, and there's a great night vision goggle scene in that whole situation. On top of that, the iconic Hannibal Lecter performances, the great scenes with him and Agent Sterling. You got the scene when she's going back there to talk to him and the guy jacks off on her, throws his semen at her. It's a unforgettable movie for that alone. But then Hannibal Lecter once again is helping solve who the killer could be. So I thought that was another interesting little take there with the Hannibal Lecter character, that like once again he's willing to help in exchange for some amenities or some better living conditions. And he uses this to his advantage to kill some guards and get the fuck out of prison or whatever. And my number 1 crime movie, the one you've been waiting for, you might have guessed it already, but it's going to be none other than Zodiac, the 2007 David Fincher movie. And I'm probably a little bit biased on this right now because I've been getting back into the Zodiac case and doing a lot more kind of like refreshers and some additional research by reading that Zodiactually book. And that kind of just had me take on a whole other perspective with this case, which doesn't really line up with this movie, to be completely honest, but I just really appreciate that. And I still really like this movie as a crime movie. This is one where, before reading this book that's more focused on what was actually going on in the late 60s and early 70s with the Zodiac killer, we've listened to kind of like a docu podcast or whatever about the Zodiac that went into detail about all the crimes and had a lot of interviews with people that worked on the case and stuff like that. So it was a really good good Zodiac documentary or whatever. I think it was called Monster or something like that, like Monster, the Zodiac Killer or something. It was on Spotify, I think, but it pretty much fills you in on like the basic understanding of what happened in the case. I listened to that, and then I watched the David Fincher movie after that, and man, fantastic movie. Even though I was pretty much convinced at that point that Arthur Lee Allen wasn't the Zodiac Killer, at the time I was thinking that there was just like a Zodiac Killer that was responsible for all these crimes, for the most part anyway. So I was thinking like, okay, it's probably not Arthur Lee Allen though, because that seems to be the guy that everyone thinks it is. And if it was, they probably would have found something on him and been able to have caught him by now. But with all that being said, after watching this movie, I was back to thinking that it was Arthur Lee Allen, because it does such a good job of framing him as the most likely suspect, or the most likely, you know, person that was probably the Zodiac Killer. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to look into this guy again. So then I started looking into it more and doing more research and stuff after watching the movie. And I really couldn't find anything else that was like more helpful. And that is something that I thought was that I really appreciated about that Zodiac Actually book. It kind of goes into that, and it frames Arthur Lee Allen as a good potential suspect for the Lake Berryessa killings, the ones where Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were stabbed. And that is the one where Brian Hartnell survived, but the killer was wearing like almost like an executioner hood, and talked to them for quite a while. He had them at gunpoint and pretty much told them like he was going to rob them and then leave them alone, but he ended up tying him up and stabbing him. And they did. And for that one, I can see like where in the book he's talking about how Arthur Lee Allen is a fairly likely suspect for that crime, but probably not the other ones. But they were so focused on this all tying together that it seems like they probably overlooked like maybe some evidence in these individual crimes, or like potential suspects, because once it was tied to Zodiac, they kind of took the eyewitness info from the second shooting and were like, oh, Arthur Lee Allen doesn't fit that, you know, he's way too big, he's bald, he's not, you know, he's too old and stuff like that. Where it's like, if you look at these as disconnected crimes, then having more than one eyewitness report makes sense. You know what I mean? As far as the movie goes, though, I think it does a really good job of telling the Robert Graysmith story from his book Zodiac and Zodiac Unmasked from 2002. And overall, obviously, really solid crime flick. I feel like the way it plays out, it's one that'll get you hooked, and it'll be like, damn, this is what really happened. Although I don't really think that's exactly what happened. It does tell the events in the way that they were seen at the time. The most popular narrative was this one, so does a really good job telling that story. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, Robert Downey Jr. You got Brian Cox. Remember him from Manhunter, playing the fucking Hannibal Lecter? So he's in this movie too. And then you got Dermot Mulroney from the movie Scream 6. I don't really remember who he is in this movie, but probably my least favorite character in Scream 6. So whatever that's worth. This story, I mean, it just kind of shows like the Zodiac murders, the ciphers, and how they called in, kind of all the things that were going on in the public eye and the media and in the newspapers, and how, you know, the main characters involved were really just getting completely consumed by this case. That's all they could spend their time on. They became obsessed with it, and they were determined to figure out who the Zodiac Killer was, basically. Between like the writers at the papers, the lead detective Dave Toschi, and then it kind of wraps up at the end on a really suspicious note, where it kind of points its finger again at this one character, and it's like, this is who I think is the fucking Zodiac. And it's like, oh, okay, well, interesting, I guess. Interesting way to end the movie. I mean, I guess that's the whole point, though, is like, this is his point of view of how things went down. So that's it. Those are 23 of my favorite crime movies of all time. Let me know in the comments below some of your favorite crime movies. How would you have done this list differently? Did I get the order right? Are there some of these movies on here that you think are way out of place? Would you put some of these way higher, way lower? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to support the channel, you can sign up on Patreon. I believe you can also sign up on Spotify now for bonus episodes. So there are some bonus episodes on there. I'm going to get back to recording those a little more regularly. I just haven't had any time to get any new episodes done. So I've kind of been in the middle. I've been stuck in the middle of watching Twin Peaks for like a year now, but I'm going to finish it up pretty soon and we'll get those taken care of. So thanks for watching. Good night.